Hey guys, man, during very slow DBD news cycle here, and I was browsing Reddit in bed and came across this thread that might actually have some interesting random things that people might not be aware of. A lot of these are really basic things, but there are also a couple of lesser known things that I do think it would be good to reiterate to the player base, because I see people in solo queue, for example, making these mistakes that are, again, really obvious to me, but they might not be obvious to, like, your standard player that's not just looking up guides for stuff like that. So it's not really fair, and there's no tutorials for it. So here's a couple of like random things that Reddit brought up that I think are pretty good. I have to go out of my way. The first one is just I've noticed a lot of my solo queue teammates don't realize you can repair generators. That is the unknown fact. That's just the... Yeah. Okay, let's actually go through some of the real ones, though. So a couple of these are really good. This first one right here. Quickly tapping a survivor on hook will make the Knight's Guard who is chasing you disappear. This is something that I have tried to drive home so much because so many people think that the Knight is, for some reason, this extremely good camper because you just can't save. He's got the guard on you and the killer. He's going to hit me twice. I can't do anything about it. No, as soon as you touch the hook, if there's a guard pursuing you, the guard instantly vanishes. The Knight is no better at camping, really, than like any other killer. He has no more lethality than any other killer. He can try getting you away from it if you are kind of like far away from the hook and it's intercepting you from even getting to it. But in terms of like actually straight up camping the hook, he really can't do that. He's not any better than any other killer. So as soon as you touch the hook, it just cancels out and the guard goes away. Important to note, though, that next patch, I think they're removing the ability to cancel. So you don't really have a choice of faking it anymore. So I don't think this is going to be as relevant because you literally won't be able to not do this anymore. So we'll see how they go. I really hope they don't change that because I think that's a really bad change. But next, Xenomorph will disable all flamethrowers on a map for a couple of seconds after exiting a tunnel, and this is true. This is why putting a turret outside of a tunnel is not really a great idea. The problem is you get the turrets from the tunnel, so your behavior is, oh, I'm moving really slow, I want to drop this down and move on. But when you drop it right outside a tunnel, you can just come out of the tunnel and slap it. Nothing has been done. You haven't really accomplished anything. So it is worth taking it the extra 3 or 4 seconds further away so it doesn't get disabled. I'm not sure the exact radius, but it's pretty small around the tunnel. So putting it right outside the tunnels is not always the best idea. Skull Merchant drones can't detect you. This one's a lot more obvious now if you're standing still or crouching. It used to be the lines did not turn white, but now when the lines turn white, that indicates they are not going to detect you. Very simple. If you're crouching or if you're just standing still, they're not going to be able to detect you. So the visual interface makes that way, way clearer now. This is also a pretty known one as well, but I'll reiterate it. If there's 2 lockers combined with each other, the dredge will always teleport to the locked locker. So if you have like a pair of lockers, you only have to lock one of them, and the dredge will always teleport to the locked locker. That way you can lock it again by locking the other locker. So there's 2 attempts to basically lock him in there. Never blinding Legion while they're in Frenzy is a very, very good idea because the blind will cancel his Frenzy, meaning he doesn't have to go through the cooldown of the and then he's like, like that. And then he can just immediately smack you. So I'm sure you've seen clips of Legion techs before where people will get a hit with their power and they'll get blinded and immediately just down them after that. Don't blind Legion of their power. Almost always a bad idea. This is what I didn't actually know. If you see idle Victor nearby, crouch to him and then kick him. If you don't crouch, the killer will get Killer Instinct on you and almost always switch to Victor. I didn't know that crouching near Victor actually made it so you didn't give Killer Instinct. I straight up did not know that. I think I've gone against about 4 twins in my entire life, so it's not like I've seen multiple chances for this to happen, but that is a good thing to know, especially if we're about to have a twins rework. That is a very useful fact. I'm not sure how useful it's going to be with the change rework, though, so I guess we'll see. You can instantly remove Artist Crows by jumping in a locker. This is an extremely understated one because not only does no one play Artist, but people don't know about this when they do go against Artist. They will get hit on a generator across the map and then just sit there and repel the crows with a locker 2 feet away. Like, there's no reason to not fast vault the locker. The artist knows you're there. She just hit you with birds. So just go in the locker. They're instantly gone. Get back out, right back on the gen. She's basically just wasted her power. So that is a very, very useful thing to do. But for the most part, you just don't really ever see that many artists. So it's just not that big of a deal. Another thing is, I'm not sure if it was listed here that I read here, but Plague's Infection. I actually didn't know this until like a month ago. If you are walking, your infection doesn't progress. It just stays still. It's only when you're doing actions like generators or actively running that the thing will actually go up. but you can actually awkwardly like put plague into the scenario, especially if it's a plague that has like the passive infection style rather than the active spray on you style. You can just walk in her face and nothing will happen. So that's actually really cool, and I straight up just did not know that. So that is a very, very useful thing. Also, I think this is a pretty good tip too. If you hear Doc charging a static blast, going in a locker will dodge the madness. He'll still know where you are because he went into the locker, but he's going to know where you are anyway. So always a good idea to just do that as well. This one is a little weird. If you're spraying yourself in his Master Tiresias, he gets Killer Instinct on you. That's both true and not true. That's a global effect. It doesn't matter where you're spraying yourself. He's always going to get Killer Instinct. Nemesis is the exact same way. Those killers, no matter really where you are always going to get some form of Killer Instinct. So they're always going to know where you are, and that's why Wesker tunneling can be kind of annoying because you kind of have to choose. The best plan against Wesker is to 99 your heal, then spray yourself, then finish the heal. Because if you spray yourself and he knows where you are and you're still injured, then that can be kind of a rough scenario because he's going to come back, you're injured, you can't really get away. Sure, you're not slowed down anymore now, and that's wonderful, but you still have the fact that now you have a Wesker that's tunneling you and you're injured, and yeah. Lockers don't hide you from Killer Instinct. Very simple fact that a lot of people don't understand. So if you go in a locker versus Legion, he's going to grab you out of it. They can see you. Killer Instinct is that, like the heartbeat red pulsing effect that you can see. It's not direct aura reading, but it's a very rough indicator of where the survivor is. I didn't know that. You can open gates with Madness 3. I guess you can do that. It's one of those things where that scenario, like, it never really ends up happening, but that's kind of good to know. Like, you can do a couple of things with Madness 3, like unhook, but I didn't know you could open the gates as well. That's pretty interesting. Setting Plague with a pallet will have the Corrupt Purge will take them out of power. That is definitely true. Just really hard to do because typically plagues that have their Corrupt Purge up are kind of going to respect pallets a little bit, which you can use to your advantage by greeting the pallet and running past it because they might ready their power and then you can keep running. It's not as big of a slowdown as Huntress for her, but it is still probably a better option overall. This I didn't know either. Ghostface can't be knocked out of his power by a marked survivor. So apparently, I don't even know if this is true or not, but I'll believe it for whatever reason. If you are exposed by Ghostface, apparently you can't reveal him anymore. Not that that's a super common scenario where that'll actually happen, but yeah, it's good to know if a Ghostface does have you exposed and then he goes into his power again. You don't really have to waste time staring at him awkwardly to get to to reveal him again because apparently it just doesn't actually do anything to change that. This is also just a general quality of life thing. Knowing what certain perks do is really nice. Things like Plot Twist will make it and stuff like that. This is more just general perk knowledge as well, but the amount of times I will down myself with Plot Twist and solo queue, and I'll have 3 teammates, SEAL Team 6, dive on me to all heal me, actually wasting so much time. That's not really a tip I can give here. It's just learn what these perks do. We'll make it, for example, if you're unhooked and you see a new little symbol in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, that's We'll Make It. They can heal you in 8 seconds. Just let them heal you. It's one of the few times healing out of the hook is actually a pretty good idea. Crouching against Xenomorph, very good idea, because the tail kind of goes from up to down. Now, good Xenomorphs can drag it. There's a little bit of an active hitbox where you've got about a half a second to drag it downward. So good Xenomorphs can counter this, but anyone that just goes directly to just hit you over a pallet, you can crouch over it or under it a lot of the time. Crouching Plague's Corrupt Purges too. If you're right in Plague's face, she cannot actually aim directly down. It only goes kind of outwards. So if you're directly below her crouching her, she actually can't hit you with Corrupt Purge. Now she can just M1 you, but M1ing is much better than Corrupt Purge because the cooldown is going to be much longer than hitting with a Corrupt Purge. So that's always a good idea. You can leave, this is something a lot of people don't know, you can leave the game with a pig trap on your head as long as it's not activated. Pig traps activate after generators are done. If all the generators are done and then she puts a trap on you, it's essentially a dead trap. It doesn't actually do anything. Another random tidbit is if someone has an active trap on you and you're on the end game and they're being chased, everyone needs to leave the match because the only possible way that guy is going to escape is if they get the hatch. So you definitely need to just leave. I can't tell you the amount of times I've been killed because teammates want to help me, but there's obviously nothing they can do. So that is very, very, very important to just leave in that scenario. Like in nature in the first rush, that's pretty obvious, although sometimes even I screw that up. Yeah, oh yeah, there's the plague one. You don't infect other people or gens unless you're fully infected. That's actually a little known fact too. Just because you have infection on you doesn't mean you're going to spread that. You have to be fully infected and broken for that to actually begin to spread. Crouching for Blights and Demogorgons and Billies is also a good tip too. If you crouch, it makes the hitbox way more strict. If they directly hit you in a straight line, crouching is not going to do anything. But for those hits where they hit you kind of like on the side of the hitboxes, crouching can sometimes actually just straight up make you dodge a hit. Additionally, elevation differences make things like Blight power hits and chainsaw hits very, very hard. So, for example, if you're on the basement stairs and a hillbilly is trying to chainsaw you down, if you crouch, it's almost impossible to hit you unless he hits you like directly in a straight line. So that can make you really safe as well. It's also super frustrating. This one here brings up a really good talking point. Just simply saying a hook stage takes 60 seconds. One of the most important tips I can give you is if a guy's being tunneled, you can tell he's being focused down. The safest place that person can be is on the hook. The person cannot be tunneled if they're sitting on the hook. Yeah, that might suck if you're in a scenario where, you know, you're just leaving the guy on the hook to die. But doing 50 seconds of gens and then trading right at the end is so much better than dancing back and forth, trying to get him early where he might just get, like, think about it. Say a guy gets hooked, you want to unhook him 20 seconds later. Killer comes back, hits him, and then 20 seconds later downs him and hooks them. That's quicker than if you just let him sit on the hook and you actually would have been on gens that entire time instead of having a 1-for-1. Sometimes letting people sit on the hook when the killer is clearly proxy camping or tunneling is by far the smartest play. So I guess the tip here I would say is the safest place a survivor can be against the tunneling and camping killer is on the hook, because they can't be killed while they're on the hook unless the full time allots. So, you know, you got to use judgment calls there. If they've been on the hook for, 50 seconds, then you do have to go save. But, let them sit there for half a minute. It's not a big deal. It wastes a ton of the killer's time if they stick around there, and also it protects them from tunneling. Additionally, they can still use their anti-tunnel perks with that once they do get unhooked. It just took even more time there. So that is going to be really good for just your overall efficiency there. I think those are mostly some pretty good ones. Holy shit! What do you want? Video over. What?